First contact. The day the stars went out, humanity knew everything had changed. It wasn't that the celestial lights had actually vanished, of course, but as the massive alien vessel entered Earth's orbit, its hull seeming to absorb all illumination, it might as well have swallowed the cosmos whole. Lieutenant James Chen stood at rigid attention on the grounds of the United Nations headquarters in New York, his dress uniform crisp, despite the sweltering August heat. Around him, a mixed honor guard of Earth's finest soldiers formed neat rows, a show of unity in the face of the unknown. James flexed his fingers, willing away the nervous energy thrumming through his body. As Earth's top linguistic expert and cultural liaison, he'd been chosen to be humanity's voice in this historic moment. The weight of that responsibility pressed down on him like a physical force. A hush fell over the assembled crowd as a beam of shimmering light appeared, stretching from the hovering ship to the ground before them. James squinted against the brightness, his heart racing as shadowy figures began to materialize. The aliens emerged from the light with an otherworldly grace, their movements liquid smooth. James catalogued details with practiced efficiency, bipedal forms, roughly humanoid, but with skin that seemed to shift colors like oil on water. Their eyes were large and multifaceted, refracting the sunlight in dazzling patterns. But it was their leader who truly took James' breath away. She stood a head taller than her companions, her form lithe and elegant. Her skin shimmered with hues of blue and purple, seeming to pulse with an inner light. But it was her eyes that captured James completely, depthless pools of swirling silver that seemed to contain entire galaxies. James was dimly aware of the gasps and murmurs rippling through the crowd. He realized he was staring and snapped his mouth shut, cheeks burning. The alien leader's gaze swept over the assembled humans, and James could have sworn those mesmerizing eyes lingered on him for a heartbeat longer than the others. Then she stepped forward, raising her hands in what was clearly meant to be a gesture of peace. "Greetings, people of Earth," she said, her voice melodic and thrumming with subharmonics that James could feel in his bones. "I am Ambassador Zara of the Galactic Confederation. We come in peace and friendship." James blinked in surprise. He'd expected to need his linguistic skills to decipher an alien language, but the ambassador was speaking perfect English. Some kind of advanced translation technology, he surmised. There was a moment of stunned silence, then a cacophony of voices as the assembled dignitaries all began speaking at once. James winced at the lack of decorum. So much for humanity's best foot forward. He saw uncertainty flicker across Ambassador Zara's ethereal features, her companions shifting restlessly. Without conscious thought, James stepped forward. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador Zara," he said, his voice cutting through the din. "On behalf of humanity, we are honored by your presence and eager to begin a dialogue of mutual understanding and cooperation." The crowd fell silent, all eyes on James. He was acutely aware that he'd just majorly overstepped his authority. But as Ambassador Zara's gaze locked with his, a smile curving her iridescent lips, he couldn't bring himself to regret it. "Thank you," she said, the lilt in her voice making it a question. "Lieutenant James Chen, Your Excellency," he replied with a slight bow. "I serve as Earth's linguistic and cultural expert." "A pleasure to meet you, Lieutenant Chen," Zara said, inclining her head. "I look forward to learning more about your fascinating species." As the formal introductions and speeches finally got underway, James couldn't help but notice the sidelong glances and whispers from his fellow humans. He realized that he was the only one who had dared to directly approach the alien delegation. The rest of the day passed in a whirlwind of activity. As humanity's governments scrambled to adjust to this new reality, James found himself constantly at Ambassador Zara's side, facilitating communication and smoothing over cultural misunderstandings. He learned that the Galactic Confederation was an alliance of spacefaring civilizations, spanning a significant portion of the Milky Way. Earth was being invited to join as a probationary member, with the promise of advanced technology and protection in exchange for adherence to certain galactic laws and customs. As the sun began to set, casting the alien ship in hues of burnt orange, James escorted Ambassador Zara to the quarters that had been hastily prepared for the alien delegation. "I hope you'll find everything to your liking, Your Excellency," James said as they walked. "If there's anything you need, please don't hesitate to ask." Zara smiled, a gesture James was starting to realize was universal across species. "You've been most accommodating, Lieutenant Chen. I must say, you've impressed me with your poise and quick thinking. Many species are far less composed when faced with first contact." James felt a flush of pride at her words. "Thank you, Ambassador. I admit, I'm still processing the magnitude of all this myself, but I believe in humanity's potential. We may be young compared to the Confederation, but we have much to offer." Zara's multifaceted eyes seemed to sparkle with interest. "I look forward to learning more about your species, James. Perhaps you would be willing to continue our cultural exchange over a meal tomorrow." James blinked in surprise at the informal use of his first name, but nodded eagerly. "It would be my honor, Ambassador." As he bid her good night and turned to leave, James couldn't shake the feeling that his life, and the course of human history, had just irrevocably changed. Little did he know just how right he was. The next morning dawned bright and clear, the alien ship still hovering over New York like an iridescent thundercloud. James arrived at the UN building early, determined to be prepared for his meeting with Ambassador Zara. He found her in the gardens, her shimmering form a stark contrast to the earthy greenery around her. She turned as he approached, a smile lighting up her alien features. "Good morning, James," she said warmly. "I hope you don't mind that I started exploring on my own. Your planet's flora is fascinating." James returned her smile, feeling surprisingly at ease in her presence. "Not at all, Ambassador. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Shall we head to breakfast?" As they walked, Zara peppered James with questions about Earth's ecosystems, culture, and history. Her curiosity was infectious, and James found himself seeing his own world through new eyes as he explained concepts he'd always taken for granted. Over a meal of various Earth cuisines, which Zara approached with admirable adventurousness, their conversation deepened. James learned that Zara's species, the Etherians, were one of the founding members of the Galactic Confederation. They were known for their diplomatic skills and advanced biotechnology. "Your world has so much potential, James," Zara said, her eyes shimmering with excitement. "The diversity of your cultures, the resilience of your species, it's truly remarkable. I believe Earth will be a valuable addition to the Confederation." James felt a swell of pride at her words. "Thank you, Ambassador. We may be young as a spacefaring civilization, but humanity has always dreamed of the stars. This is the fulfillment of those dreams." As their meal concluded, Zara's expression grew more serious. "James, there's something I need to discuss with you. Something that concerns the future of both our peoples." James leaned forward, sensing the weight of her words. "What is it, Ambassador?" Zara glanced around, then lowered her voice. "The Confederation Council is divided on Earth's admission. Some believe your species is too volatile, too unpredictable. They fear you might destabilize the galactic balance." James felt a chill run down his spine. "What do you think, Ambassador?" Zara's multifaceted eyes seemed to peer into his very soul. "I think there's greatness in humanity, James. A spark that could ignite the stars themselves. But it needs to be nurtured, guided. That's why I've recommended you as Earth's official liaison to the Confederation." James' jaw dropped. "Me? But surely there are more qualified." Zara held up a hand, silencing him. "You are the only one brave enough to approach us directly, James. You've shown an ability to bridge the gap between our cultures that is rare and valuable. The Confederation needs someone like you to help integrate Earth into the galactic community." As the implications of her words sank in, James felt a mix of excitement and terror. This was far beyond anything he'd ever imagined for himself. But as he met Zara's gaze, seeing the trust and hope there, he knew he couldn't refuse. "I would be honored, Ambassador," he said, his voice steady despite the butterflies in his stomach. Zara's smile was radiant. "Excellent. We'll make the announcement at today's summit. Together, James, we're going to change the course of galactic history." As they left the dining room, neither of them noticed the figure lurking in the shadows, eyes narrowed with suspicion and hatred. The seeds of conflict had already been sown, and the journey ahead would be far from smooth. But for now, as James walked beside the ethereal Ambassador Zara, he allowed himself to hope. Humanity was about to take its first steps into a larger universe, and he would be there to guide them. The stars that had once seemed so distant were now within reach, and James Chen was ready to grasp them with both hands. Cosmic Classroom. The holographic display flickered to life, filling the renovated UN Assembly Hall with a breathtaking view of the Milky Way. James Chen stood before it, acutely aware of the hundreds of eyes, both human and alien, fixed upon him. "Welcome to Galactic Geography 101, he said, his voice steady despite the butterflies in his stomach. "Today, we'll be exploring the Orion Arm and its key players in the Confederation." As James began his lecture, he marveled at the surreal turn his life had taken. In the months since first contact, he'd gone from a little-known linguistic expert to Earth's primary liaison with the Galactic Confederation. Now, he found himself teaching a class of mixed species, preparing both humans and aliens for the challenges of interstellar diplomacy. Ambassador Zara sat in the front row, her iridescent form a stark contrast to the humans around her. Her multifaceted eyes sparkled with interest as James spoke, and he found himself unconsciously directing his words to her. "The Zeta Reticuli system," James continued, zooming in on a cluster of stars, "is home to the Greys, known for their advanced cognitive sciences. They've expressed particular interest in human neuroplasticity, which they believe could revolutionize their own mental enhancement techniques." A Grey in the audience chirped excitedly, its large black eyes blinking rapidly. James smiled, still amazed at how quickly such sights had become normal. As the lecture progressed, James noticed a human at the back of the room, furiously scribbling notes with an old-fashioned pen and paper. He recognized the man as Dr. Elias Vaughan, a brilliant but controversial xenobiologist known for his radical theories on human-alien hybridization. James made a mental note to speak with Dr. Vaughan after the class. The man's ideas were provocative, but in this new era of interstellar relations, they might prove valuable. Suddenly, an alarm blared through the hall, causing several aliens to emit distress pheromones. James quickly pulled up a security feed on the holographic display. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all designations," he said, fighting to keep his voice calm, "please remain seated. It appears we have a situation at the main entrance." The feed showed a group of protesters outside the UN building, waving signs with slogans like "Earth for Humans" and "Alien Go Home." At the forefront was a familiar face, Senator Helena Graves, a vocal opponent of Earth's integration into the Confederation. James exchanged a worried glance with Zara. They'd known there would be resistance, but this open hostility was escalating faster than they'd anticipated. "Class dismissed," James announced. "Please return to your designated areas until we've resolved this situation." As the room cleared, Zara approached James, her bioluminescent skin pulsing with concern. "This is troubling, James. Senator Graves has a significant following. If she turns public opinion against the Confederation..." James nodded grimly. "I know. We need to address this head-on." He paused, an idea forming. "Actually, this might be an opportunity. Zara, how would you feel about a live, global broadcast? We could answer questions, address concerns, show the world that we have nothing to hide." Zara's eyes widened. "That's quite bold, James. Are you sure humanity is ready for such transparency?" "Ready or not, we need to do something," James replied. "Fear thrives in darkness. Let's shine a light on it." Within hours, they had set up a makeshift studio in the UN building. James stood beside Zara, acutely aware of the billions of eyes watching across the globe and beyond. "Good evening, citizens of Earth and honored members of the Galactic Confederation," James began. "We come to you tonight in a spirit of openness and honesty. Ambassador Zara, and I will be taking your questions live, addressing any concerns you may have about Earth's future in the galactic community. The questions came fast and furious. Some were hostile, others curious, but James and Zara handled them all with patience and transparency. Ambassador Zara, came one pointed query. There are rumors that your people see humans as nothing more than lab rats for your experiments. How do you respond? Zara's expression remained serene, but James saw a flicker of hurt in her eyes. I understand your fear, she replied, but I assure you, nothing could be further from the truth. We see humanity as equals, with unique gifts to offer the Confederation. Your creativity, your adaptability, these are traits we admire and hope to learn from. As the broadcast continued, James noticed a shift in the tone of the questions. The initial hostility began to give way to genuine curiosity. People were starting to see Zara not as an alien threat, but as a person, different, yes, but with hopes and dreams not so unlike their own. Towards the end of the session, a final question came in that caught James off guard. Lieutenant Chen, there's been speculation about the nature of your relationship with Ambassador Zara. Can you address these rumors? James felt heat rise to his cheeks. He glanced at Zara, seeing his own surprise mirrored in her alien features. They hadn't discussed this, hadn't even acknowledged the growing tension between them. Taking a deep breath, James decided to answer with complete honesty. Ambassador Zara is a valued colleague and a dear friend. The connection between us, I believe, represents the potential for understanding and harmony between our species. As for anything beyond that, he paused, meeting Zara's gaze. We're exploring the possibilities, just as humanity is exploring its new place in the cosmos. There was a moment of stunned silence, then a flurry of follow-up questions. But before James could respond, the feed suddenly cut out, plunging the studio into darkness. What's happening? Zara asked, her bioluminescence providing a soft glow. Before James could answer, his secure communicator buzzed. The message he read sent a chill down his spine. We need to go, he said urgently, grabbing Zara's hand. Now. As they rushed from the studio, alarms began to blare throughout the building. James' mind raced. The message had been brief but terrifying. Orbital defense grid compromised. Unknown vessels approaching. This is not a drill. As they emerged onto the roof, James looked up at the night sky. The stars were blotted out by massive shapes descending through the atmosphere, ships that dwarfed even the Confederation vessels. Humanity's trial by fire was about to begin, and James realized that everything up to this point had been merely a prelude. The real test of Earth's place in the galactic community was about to unfold. With Zara at his side, James squared his shoulders. Whatever was coming, they would face it together, human and alien united against the unknown. Quantum quandary. The sky blazed with otherworldly light as the unknown vessels breached Earth's atmosphere. James and Zara stood transfixed on the UN building's roof, their hands clasped tightly together. By the cosmic core, Zara breathed, her bioluminescence flickering rapidly. Those are Void Harbinger ships. But how? They were supposed to be sealed beyond the galactic rim. James tore his gaze away from the terrifying spectacle above. Void Harbingers. Zara, what are we dealing with here? Before she could answer, a piercing whine filled the air. James clutched his head in pain, noticing others around them doing the same. Zara seemed unaffected, her multifaceted eyes wide with horror. It's a quantum disruption field, she shouted over the noise. James, we need to get to my ship immediately. It's our only chance. As they raced through the panicking crowds, James saw people and objects flickering in and out of existence. The very fabric of reality seemed to be unraveling around them. They reached Zara's sleek vessel just as the ground beneath their feet began to shimmer and warp. The ship's ramp descended, and they scrambled aboard. Initiating quantum stabilization field, Zara announced, her fingers dancing over holographic controls. The painful whine subsided within the ship's confines, replaced by an eerie silence. James watched in awe as Zara piloted the ship effortlessly through the chaos, dodging debris and energy beams from the invading fleet. "We need to rendezvous with the Confederation Defense Force," she said grimly. "They'll be gathering at the dark side of your moon." As they broke through the atmosphere, James gasped at the sight before them. Hundreds of Confederation ships engaged in a dazzling firefight with the Void Harbinger fleet. Space itself seemed to bend and twist around the battling armadas. "Zara," James said slowly, an idea forming. "You said this was a quantum disruption. Could we use that somehow? Turn their weapon against them?" Zara's eyes widened. "James, that's brilliant. But we'd need a way to amplify and focus the disruption field. Something that could handle enormous amounts of energy." James grinned, a spark of hope igniting in his chest. "I think I know just the thing. Have you ever heard of the Large Hadron Collider?" What followed was a frantic race against time. As the battle raged above, James and Zara worked with a hastily assembled team of human scientists and Confederation engineers to modify the massive particle accelerator. Dr. Elias Vaughn, the xenobiologist from James' class, proved invaluable. His unconventional theories on cross-species DNA provided the key to stabilizing the quantum field for non-void entities. "It's ready," Dr. Vaughn announced, his eyes wild with excitement and lack of sleep. "But we'll only get one shot at this. The power requirements will burn out the entire system." James nodded grimly. "Then we'd better make it count." As Zara interfaced with the jury-rigged controls, James opened a channel to the Confederation fleet. "All Allied ships, this is Lieutenant James Chen of Earth. Prepare for quantum flux in Sector 17A. Redirect all fire to these coordinates on my mark." He held his breath as the seconds ticked by. The fate of Earth, of the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. "Now," James shouted. A blinding pulse of energy erupted from the Earth's surface, engulfing the warring fleets. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze. Then, with a silent explosion of light, the Void Harbinger ships began to disintegrate. Cheers erupted over the comm channels as the invading fleet vanished, leaving only scattered debris in its wake. James slumped in relief, feeling the weight of countless lives lift from his shoulders. But their victory was short-lived. As the quantum disruption faded, a new threat emerged. The fabric of spacetime, already strained by the Void Harbinger's weapons, began to tear. "James," Zara's voice was tight with fear. "The quantum backlash, it's creating a singularity. If we don't contain it, it could swallow your entire solar system." James stared at the swirling vortex of energy forming where the Void Harbinger fleet had been. His mind raced, searching for a solution. Then his eyes fell on the modified Hadron Collider controls. "Zara," he said slowly, "what if we inverted the quantum field? Used it to seal the rift instead of tearing reality apart?" Zara's eyes widened. "It's possible, but, James, the energy required would be astronomical. We'd need a power source beyond anything in the Confederation's arsenal." James set his jaw, a determined glint in his eye. "Then it's a good thing we have something the Confederation doesn't." He opened a channel to Earth's power grids. "This is Lieutenant Chen. I need every nuclear reactor, every power plant, every battery on the planet diverted to these coordinates. Now." As the orders were relayed, James turned to Zara. "I'll need your help to modulate the field. Our technologies, working in harmony, it's our only shot." Zara nodded, a mix of admiration and worry in her alien features. Together then. They worked in perfect synchronization, human intuition and alien precision combining in a dance of scientific brilliance. Energy poured into their makeshift device, the entire planet straining to power their last-ditch effort. With a sound like reality itself screaming, a beam of pure quantum energy lanced out from Earth, striking the heart of the forming singularity. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the swirling vortex began to collapse in on itself. "It's working," Dr. Vaughn shouted, his voice hoarse with excitement. The rift is closing. James allowed himself a small smile, but kept his focus on the controls. They weren't out of danger yet. As the last of the singularity winked out of existence, the modified Hadron Collider exploded in a shower of sparks. Emergency systems kicked in, preventing a catastrophic meltdown, but the damage was done. In the sudden silence that followed, James became aware of the countless eyes upon him, human and alien alike. He had just coordinated the salvation of not just Earth, but potentially the entire galaxy. Zara's hand found his, her touch sending a jolt of electricity through him that had nothing to do with the recent energy discharge. "James," she said softly, "you did it. You saved us all." As the realization of their victory sank in, cheers erupted both over the communication channels and on the streets below. Humanity had faced its trial by fire and emerged triumphant. But as James looked out at the debris-strewn orbit of Earth, he knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy now knew of humanity's potential, for better or for worse. The real work of securing Earth's place among the stars was just beginning. With Zara by his side, representing the unity of human and alien, James prepared to face the new dawn of interstellar politics. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, a bridge between worlds forged in the crucible of cosmic conflict. The stars had never seemed brighter or closer than they did at that moment. Humanity's destiny awaited, and James Chen was ready to help write the next chapter in the cosmic story. Nexus Nebula. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with an energy unlike anything James had ever experienced. Hundreds of alien species, each more fantastical than the last, filled the vast amphitheater. At the center stood James Chen, Earth's newly appointed ambassador to the Confederation, with Zara by his side. "Esteemed members of the Council," James began, his voice carrying across the chamber, "I stand before you not just as a representative of Earth, but as a testament to the power of unity in the face of cosmic peril." The events of the Void Harbinger invasion had catapulted humanity into the galactic spotlight. Earth's pivotal role in averting catastrophe had earned them an accelerated path to full Confederation membership. But not everyone was thrilled with this development. "The humans are reckless," bellowed Grokthar, the Urgolian representative. His gelatinous form quivered with indignation. Their quantum meddling nearly tore a hole in the fabric of spacetime itself. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. James felt a bead of sweat trickle down his back, but he stood his ground. "With all due respect, Counselor," James countered, "it was precisely that recklessness that saved not just Earth, but countless Confederation worlds from the Void Harbinger threat. Humanity's ability to think outside established paradigms is our greatest strength, and it could be the Confederation's as well." As debates raged, a new crisis emerged. Reports flooded in of a massive astral phenomenon rapidly approaching Confederation space. The Nexus Nebula, a swirling vortex of cosmic energy and dark matter, threatened to destabilize entire star systems in its path. "Our predictive models show the nebula reaching the Orion Arm within 3 standard cycles," announced T. Lara, the Velian science officer. "Evacuation of threatened systems is impossible in that time frame." The Council erupted into panic. Centuries-old alliances began to fracture as species vied for limited safe havens. James watched in dismay as the unity forged in the face of the Void Harbingers crumbled. In the midst of the chaos, an idea struck him. "What if we didn't run from the nebula?" he asked, his voice cutting through the din. "What if we could harness its power instead?" All eyes turned to James as he outlined his audacious plan. Using a network of quantum entanglement relays, they could create a galactic-scale energy collection grid. The Nexus Nebula's immense power could be channeled to create a new form of faster-than-light travel, opening up vast, unexplored regions of the universe. "It's preposterous," Grokthar exclaimed. "The energy requirements alone would drain entire star systems." "Not if we use Dyson swarms to harvest the energy of multiple suns simultaneously," James countered. He turned to Zara, whose eyes shimmered with excitement. The Etherians have been developing solar harvesting technology for centuries, combined with Earth's quantum manipulation techniques. We could create a stable transdimensional corridor, Zara finished, her voice filled with awe. James, this could revolutionize galactic travel and exploration. The council chamber buzzed with a mixture of hope and skepticism. James knew he was asking for an unprecedented level of cooperation between species, many of whom had been bitter rivals for millennia. "I know what I'm proposing sounds impossible," James said, his voice resonating with conviction. "But look at what we've already achieved together." The Void Harbingers were thought to be an unstoppable force, yet united, we prevailed. This Nexus Nebula presents not just a threat, but an opportunity, a chance to propel our civilization to heights we've only dreamed of. As James spoke, holographic displays sprang to life around the chamber, showcasing the technical specifications of his plan. Dr. Elias Vaughn, now heading Earth's Xenocians division, added his expertise, demonstrating how the project could also advance cross-species medical treatments and solve long-standing biological incompatibilities. Slowly, the mood in the chamber began to shift. Species that had been at each other's throats moments ago now huddled together, discussing potential collaborations. The Ugolians' gelatinous forms merged with Vulian crystalline structures, creating impromptu think tanks. Even the notoriously isolationist Zeta Reticulans offered their advanced cognitive sciences to the effort. As the council voted to approve the Nexus initiative, James felt a swell of pride unlike anything he'd ever experienced. This wasn't just a victory for Earth, but a triumph of galactic cooperation. The next few months were a whirlwind of activity. James found himself coordinating efforts across thousands of star systems, each day bringing new challenges and breakthroughs. The scope of the project was staggering. Entire planets were being transformed into energy collection hubs, while fleets of ships worked to construct the massive quantum entanglement network. Throughout it all, Zara remained by his side. Their relationship had deepened, becoming a symbol of human-alien unity that inspired millions across the Confederation. Together, they navigated the complex web of interstellar politics and bleeding-edge science that the Nexus Initiative demanded. As the nebula drew closer, tension mounted. Despite their best efforts, simulations showed a significant chance of failure. If the energy wasn't properly channeled, the resulting backlash could tear apart the very fabric of spacetime. On the eve of activation, James stood aboard the command ship, overlooking the vast network they created. Streams of energy flowed between stars, creating a glowing web that stretched across the galaxy. At the center of it all waited the Nexus Nebula, its swirling masses of cosmic energy both beautiful and terrifying. "All systems are ready," Zara announced, her bioluminescence pulsing with nervous energy. "It's time, James." James took a deep breath, acutely aware that the next few moments would determine the fate of countless civilizations. He thought of Earth, of the long journey that had brought humanity to this point. Whatever happened next, they had already achieved the impossible, uniting a fractious galaxy towards a common goal. "Initiate the sequence," James commanded, his voice steady despite the butterflies in his stomach. As the massive energy collection grid hummed to life, James felt the weight of history pressing down upon him. In that moment, standing beside Zara and surrounded by the combined genius of 1,000 worlds, he knew that the true golden age of galactic civilization was about to begin. The Nexus Nebula loomed before them, a cosmic maelstrom of unimaginable power. As the energy streams converged, reality itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see whether this bold experiment would usher in a new era of exploration and unity, or spell doom for all they held dear. James Chen, the human who had dared to dream on a galactic scale, reached out and took Zara's hand. Together, they prepared to step into the unknown, ready to face whatever wonders or terrors the universe had in store. The Nexus Initiative was about to change everything, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Cosmic convergence. The Nexus Nebula pulsed with ethereal energy, its swirling vortex of dark matter and cosmic radiation dwarfing even the massive Confederation fleet assembled before it. James Chen stood at the helm of the Astral Voyager, the most advanced ship ever created through the combined efforts of 100 species. "All systems are primed and ready," Zara announced, her bioluminescent skin flickering with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "The quantum entanglement network is stable." James nodded, his eyes fixed on the mesmerizing dance of colors before them. "Initiate the Cosmic Convergence Protocol." As the words left his mouth, a shimmering web of energy burst forth from the assembled ships, each strand a testament to the unprecedented cooperation between once rival civilizations. The network expanded rapidly, enveloping the Nexus Nebula in a cocoon of pure possibility. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a silent explosion of light that seared itself into the minds of all who witnessed it, the nebula began to collapse in on itself. By the first star, breathed Grokthar, the once skeptical Argolian, now watching in awe from his gelatinous command pod. "It's working." As the nebula condensed, new forms of matter never before seen began to coalesce. Impossibly dense spheres of dark energy orbited newborn quasars, while streams of tachyons danced between pockets of altered spacetime. "We're detecting massive surges of chronoton particles," Tilara reported, her Vulian features betraying a rare glimpse of emotion. "The nebula isn't just changing shape, it's manipulating the flow of time itself." James felt a chill run down his spine. They had prepared for many outcomes, but this was beyond anything they had imagined. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. "Gravitational anomalies detected," Zara shouted. "The spacetime distortions are spreading beyond the containment field." James watched in horror as cracks began to form in the very fabric of reality around them. Through these fissures, he caught glimpses of other times, other places, perhaps even other universes. "We need to stabilize the field," James declared, his mind racing. "Divert all power to the quantum harmonizers." As the crew scrambled to comply, a new crisis emerged. The chronoton surge had created temporal rifts throughout the fleet. On some ships, crew members found themselves aging rapidly, while on others, evolution seemed to be happening in reverse. "James," Zara's voice was tight with worry, "we're losing control. If we don't find a way to contain this, the temporal distortions could spread across the entire galaxy." In that moment of cosmic chaos, James had an epiphany. "We've been trying to control the nebula," he realized aloud. "But what if that's not the answer? What if we need to merge with it instead?" Before anyone could stop him, James rushed to the ship's experimental teleportation chamber. "I'm going in," he announced over the comm. "Zara, I need you to modulate the quantum field to match my brainwave patterns. Everyone else, prepare for emergency temporal shielding." "James, no," Zara cried, but it was too late. With a shimmer of energy, James Chen vanished from the ship, reappearing in the heart of the transforming nebula. The sensation was indescribable. James felt his consciousness expand, merging with the very essence of the cosmic phenomenon. Past, present, and future became one as he experienced the birth and death of stars, the rise and fall of civilizations across countless worlds. Through it all, one thought anchored him: his connection to Zara, to Earth, to the United Confederation they had helped forge. With a supreme effort of will, James began to shape the chaotic energies around him. Back on the Astral Voyager, the crew watched in awe as the nebula's wild fluctuations began to stabilize. The tiers in reality slowly knitted themselves back together, while the streams of temporal energy coalesced into stable corridors. He's creating a network of transdimensional gateways," Dr. Vaughn exclaimed, his eyes wide with wonder. "It's like nothing we've ever seen before." As the last of the anomalies faded, a figure materialized on the bridge. James stood before them, but he was transformed. His eyes glowed with inner light, and faint traces of cosmic energy danced across his skin. "James." Zara approached cautiously, her hand outstretched. He smiled, taking her hand in his. "It's me," he assured her, his voice resonating with newfound power. "And so much more." In the days that followed, the full scope of what James had accomplished became clear. The Nexus Nebula had been transformed into a vast network of stable wormholes, connecting distant parts of the galaxy and even reaching into other dimensions. The cosmic convergence, as it came to be known, ushered in a new era of exploration and discovery. Species that had once been separated by insurmountable distances now found themselves neighbors in a much smaller, more interconnected cosmos. But with this great power came great responsibility. James, now revered as the Nexus Guardian, worked tirelessly with the Confederation to establish protocols for this new reality. The threat of temporal paradoxes and interdimensional incursions was ever present, requiring constant vigilance. As James stood before the Galactic Council once more, he marveled at how far they had come. The chamber now included representatives from newly discovered civilizations, some from alternate timelines or parallel universes. "We stand at the dawn of a new age," James declared, his words carrying the weight of cosmic truth. "An age of infinite possibilities, of bridges between worlds and ideas. But let us never forget the power of unity that brought us here. For in the face of the universe's greatest mysteries, we are stronger together than we could ever be apart." Zara stood beside him, her hand intertwined with his, a living symbol of the bonds that now connected all sentient beings across the cosmos. As they gazed out at the assembled representatives of 1,000 worlds and 12 dimensions, they knew that their journey was far from over. The stars had once seemed distant and unreachable. Now they were but the first step on a path that stretched across eternity. Humanity, once a tiny spark in the cosmic night, had become a blazing beacon of hope and discovery. And James Chen, the man who had dared to reach for the impossible, stood ready to lead them into the brilliant unknown that lay ahead. As the council chambers erupted in cheers, James and Zara shared a smile. Whatever wonders or challenges awaited them in this new cosmic age, they would face them together, pioneers on the greatest adventure in the history of all creation. The Nexus Nebula pulsed in the distance, a shimmering reminder of the infinite possibilities that now lay open before them. The next chapter in the story of the universe was about to begin, and every being in existence held the pen. In that moment, as species from across time and space stood united in common purpose, James knew that they had achieved something truly remarkable. They had not just explored the cosmos, they had become one with it, writing their own destiny among the stars. The adventure was only just beginning.